Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where people say we monkey around. Come on now. We're too busy streaming to put anybody down. I don't know where that came from. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you profitably scale and exit, creating profitable growth, premium valuation, and shift from being an engaged business operator to an empowered strategic owner. I guess I got monkeys on the brain. Many of you know I live in the Dallas area, and there's been an ongoing news cycle, stories about animals escaping, and several from the Dallas Zoo. So one of those things, it happens once and you think, okay, that's weird. And then it happens again. And a clouded leopard escaped. A vulture dies mysteriously, and then some monkeys go missing. And you're like, what is going on here? Are you kidding me? And typical of news outlets, then every animal story gets big coverage. There's a coyote in Central Park, which I'm sure that affects all of us around the country. And we have coyotes in our neighborhood. I don't know that it's that big a deal, but maybe it is in Central Park. I don't know. Or there's a tiger loose in Houston, national news. Really important if you live anywhere besides, that neighborhood in Houston. Or 12 monkeys escaped from a zoo in Louisiana. That's kind of funny. Anything for ratings. All these different animal stories. And at the same time, I think if you own a zoo, you hear all these stories and you have to start thinking about your own security. Are my animals safe? And so this is going on, and Dallas police then put up some of their own cameras at the zoo. So the zoo has surveillance, but they put in some of their own cameras. And then these 2 monkeys go missing. And police pretty quickly figure out what's up. It turns out there's a guy who is cutting cages and taking animals out of enclosures. He was doing it to pet them, to take them home. The things that we all want to do with cute animals, but have enough sense to look but not touch. And I have no idea how he got them out of the zoo. Where exactly do you hide a monkey so you don't look suspicious? I don't know. Then he hops on a train to go home. Did nobody on the train think that it was kind of odd that this guy's getting on the train with monkeys? Is that not worth a phone call or maybe, social media video? Now, I've had a number of conversations with SaaS founders and CEOs lately about securing their applications. And we all read headlines about breaches. Even Slack had code stolen. LastPass, again. Are you kidding me? Corporate Vault was stolen from an employee's computer. But the thing is, none of us are immune. And even when we think we're secure, are we really? Who or what is the weakest link? Are there simple vulnerabilities that you should pay attention to now, like paying attention to a guy with some $10 wire cutters? Fortunately for the Dallas Zoo, they did get their monkeys back, and it has a happy ending, the story, at least for the monkeys, and not necessarily for the guy. But unfortunately for us SaaS leaders, that wouldn't help us. When data is stolen, it's game over, and it only takes once to kill your dream and all that equity tied up into it. So protect your monkeys. Train your team, fix the simple things, do scans, do third-party audits. It makes me sleep better knowing that our systems are regularly run through the ringer, audited, certified with multiple frameworks. But it wasn't always that way. In my current SaaS company, it was a number of years ago, my chief architect, senior DBA called me and was like, hey, is this yours? Now, that's a question that you never want to hear from anyone responsible for your network. One of our trusted DevOps people had set up a movie streaming server. How about that? And so he's asking me, hey, is this your copy of Lord of the Rings? And so we had to get rid of that and the person as well. At my previous SaaS company, I thought our team was working late all the time. And what happened is they were actually set up a World of Warcraft server network. And we're playing on the company network and servers because we had super fast internet speed. And hey, nobody is really using it at night. So I'm not immune to vulnerabilities at all. But we do a lot of things and have definitely made some changes over the years with our audits and things like that. But I don't think that for a minute, we can take security for granted. or assume that even when we have audits, that we're still safe because crazy things happen. People get in there and monkey around with systems. So it's a lot to think about, especially now with work from home, remote employment world. Security will continue to be a big, big topic in 2023 and beyond. And I think become even more important if you hold consumer data, if you have payment data, which you shouldn't be storing at all. And especially as you continue to move up market, if you move from SMB to enterprise, things are definitely going to get, heat's going to be turned up on security. So I think that the takeaway is protect your monkeys and don't let anybody monkey around with your system. Every time you hear from security, now on, you hear the word security, just think protect my monkeys. And you'll never forget now, and hopefully smile every time somebody says securities, protect your monkeys. Well, our sponsor today is Champion Leadership Group. Get free growth tools and map out a plan to scale your business from 7 to 8 to 9 figures. Travel with fellow SaaS entrepreneurs on your growth journey using a proven methodology that is mentor guided, results focused, and peer supported. Celebrate wins and quickly rebound from setbacks. Learn to do the right thing at the right time and achieve profitable growth, impact, and the freedom that most of us became entrepreneurs for in the first place. Unleash rapid growth for your SaaS at championleadership.com. Our expert last week was Christopher Nelson, tech exec through 2 IPOs, investor and author of From No Dough to IPO. Christopher gave us great insights on employees working for equity and how we as founders can structure win-win deals to attract and motivate top talent. It's a very, very cool episode. Definitely give that a listen if you missed it. And our founder last week was Ibrahim Assam, founder and CEO of eCourtDate, the multilingual communications platform for justice. Ibrahim saw a need and created a solution to serve tens of thousands, drive efficiency, and make the world a better place all at the same time. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. Well, my guest this week is Nathan Latka, founder of Founderpath. A lot of you know Founderpath. A lot of you may know Nathan. And that is the place where bootstrap founders get capital. You know, in the last 12 months, Founderpath has provided over $100 million in non-dilutive capital to 175 SaaS founders. And that is amazing. And if you don't know, non-dilutive means that founders don't give up equity in their companies like they would if they're working with private equity or venture capital firms. And yes, I said that right, venture capital. Welcome a champion of the people and bootstrap founders everywhere, Nathan Latka. Hey, Nathan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Jeff, thanks for having me. Excited to jump in with your crew today.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background and the SaaS startups that you've had that led up to what you're doing now with Founderpath.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I'm a lot like your last couple of guests, whether it was Becca K at Dingus or Marcin and what he's built. You know, we're all builders, right? And so I knew I was a builder in college. I studied architecture, but Jeff, I quickly realized I love money and architects are broke. So I said, let me go start flipping burgers at West End Grill at Virginia Tech, very cold winters. And then I said, I hate labor like this, but I don't want to be an architect anymore. And so I started building custom Facebook fan pages for folks. And I realized the power of a pixel in terms of recurring revenue. And after that, launched a firm called Heyo.com, Heyo, which I bootstrapped to some revenue raised from a VC. And that's how I cut my teeth early on, back when I was 19 and 20 in SaaS.
So what was that experience like working with VCs, 19, 20 years old, building a tech company first time? What was that experience?
I heard you say back in 1920. Jeff, I'm old. I'm not that old. I knew I grew a beard.
19, 20 years old.
Yeah, 1920. Yeah, this was, I was living in the dorm room above the theater in downtown Blacksburg on College Avenue, living the life because I dropped out at this point, and the company, I bootstrapped it to about $1 million a month in revenue, about 90 grand a month actually, so slightly above. And right around that point, a group, including David Cohen at Techstars, reached out asking if they could invest, which was a big deal because, at least I thought it was, they hadn't invested really in rural Southwest Virginia before. That whole crew is from Denver and Boulder area. And so, of course, I blushed. I fell for the VC swoon. I said, yes, please like me. Yes. Giving me your money will make me feel good. Yes, I'll be on the magazine cover and the newspapers. And I thought that's what it was all about. And so when I got the term sheet, it was 2 million raised on an 8.5 pre-money valuation, which would mean 10.5 post-money valuation. And Jeff, about 6 weeks after we closed that round, we got a LOI from a group called iContact, Ryan Allison and his group, to buy the company for 6.5 million all cash. Now, when your audience
That's
hears
tough.
that, yeah, you're going, if you know, if you guys know valuations in VC, you can't sell for 6.5 million all cash if you just closed at a 10.5 million valuation. The board will block it, which Jeff
Right.
made no sense to me. At 21 years old, I still own 60% of the business. Post-tax, I would have had about 2.75 million in my bank. I said, why the heck do people raise VC? You lose all your optionality. And that was the start.
That's absolutely true. I think people look at it from the outside though, and they think that that's validation. That's somebody buying into my idea. That's the way you're supposed to do it. But that's really not the case, is it? I mean, how many are venture funded or private equity funded versus bootstrapped?
Well, let me just tell you, you've had a lot of really great folks on your show, including Ted Elliott. You know, Ted bootstrapped his first company before he sold
Yes.
it to Job HR, right? 25 million, and he sold it for only 3x, 75 million, but he made a lot of money. Now he's at Capado, and you guys should go back and listen to this episode. It's episode 41 here on SaaS Fuel, but now it's Capado and he's raising like crazy, right? So it's way more to me about sort of what you want to do in life. But what I tell all first-time SaaS founders, create a little nest egg by bootstrapping and then go for the home run, the $1 billion swing. Go raise all the VC you can, but go sell a company for 10, 20, 30 million bucks first.
And I think that's really different. And you see a lot of founders that have done that, super successful founders. I mean, people know Mark Cuban for, broadcast.com, but that wasn't his first startup. He had an exit prior to that. And so I think that's really, really good advice. Is that something that you've taken in your subsequent companies?
Yeah, I mean, look, you rarely hear about the first and second and third swing entrepreneurs take. I bet you most of your audience couldn't answer what Elon Musk's first company was here on the show and get the name right. You never hear about the first swing, but there's always a first swing. There's actually 1,000 swings if you're playing real baseball before you're hitting grand slams, all the practice. So I guess point being is when I'm working with founders today, I'm running a $150 million fund at Founderpath. 200 founders have taken non-dilutive capital from us. And what we're advising them is you need to get to a point where you're profitable and you have to win with this, not this, right?
Right.
The real winners know how to win with creativity, because if you could win by just throwing money at it, anyone can throw money at it and win. You win uniquely using your own unfair advantage, using your genius and your creativity. And that's where winning will come from. And by the way, creativity will be even more in demand in the future when everyone's relying on the same AI bots, right? Pumping out the same AI data. Whoever can be creative, which AI can't really do, right? Whoever can be really creative will win.
I think that's absolutely right. And when you think about creativity, if you've read Ed Catmull, Creativity Inc., and he talks about that in just creativity or constraints breed creativity. And that's what really pushes it. So just throwing money at problems, and we see this all the time with some of the bigger names in the industry, raising 5, 10 times over. I don't know how many letters you have in the rounds that you raise, but some of them are pretty deep into that. But it's just throwing more money at problems. It's not really solving things in a new way or creative or having those constraints. So did you find that in your journey, that constraints really pushed you to be creative in your problem solving?
Yeah, it's just most people don't have the guts to set up constraints for themselves, and they certainly don't have the guts to tell those constraints to the team. What I mean by that is most people listening right now, you've never sat down at a team-wide all hands and said, hey guys, I want you to help the company be profitable. That's our constraint. We're going to be profitable. And then someone's going to say, well, what about growing fast? Don't we have to burn money to grow fast? And you're going to say, no. Here are 15 founders that have been on SaaS Fuel that are growing 100% year over year, and they're profitable. Go listen to Karina, right, at Function Fox, who was on what episode was it? 31, 32, 33, I think.
Something like that,
It's possible to do, it's possible to do both, but you've got to demand it from your team in terms of constraints to make it happen.
That's absolutely right. It's possible. And I think fundamentals matter. And that's something that's sort of been lost, particularly in the SaaS world, is just burn, grow at all cost. But it doesn't work that way, especially in the economy that we're looking at. It's a little bit of uncertainty coming up.
I would say a lot of uncertainty. I mean, when you look at what Powell has done at the Fed and the fact that he's taken the base rate up, starting 50 bips back to back, then 75 bips back to back, and now 25 bips, but the strong jobs report a couple of weeks ago, we're recording this February 15th. That strong jobs report, I think you're going to see him continue to do a 25 bip increase for the next 2 or 3 quarters. And I think what the problem with that is, the Fed is using historical data. It lags by about 4 months. Powell hasn't had the chance to see how the historical rate hikes have impacted the economy because it isn't being felt yet. And so I do believe we're actually heading into a massive recession in Q3, Q4 this year. And I think a lot of people are not prepared for it. But those of you that are profitable, that have $250,000 in revenue per employee, that don't have a board breathing down your neck about grow at all costs, right? That where you've paid out dividends historically to investors like Karina has done. She's paid out over $20 million in dividends over the past 20 years at Function Fox. Those are the founders that will be here the longest. They will sustain. And Jeff, many times in business, the winner is who lasts the longest.
Absolutely right. And so what does that look like as far as a forecast for companies that are looking to raise or looking at alternative financing? What should they be thinking about right now?
Well, obviously, the best time to raise money is when you don't need it. So anytime you're approaching me to negotiate at Founderpath or anybody else, you want to be in a position where you don't need capital. If you come and you need capital, we're going to charge you more money because it's risk-adjusted pricing, right? That's with anyone doing non-dilutive financing or even equity folks, right? If an equity investor knows you're about to be out of cash, they're going to ask for more equity, which means more dilution for you. So that's how everyone should be planning right now. Assume that there is no next round. Assume that there is no external funding available and build I know this is shocking, but build a sustainable business.
Right. It's what we talk about all the time about being future-proof. And I think that's really, really good advice because fundamentals matter. Profitability makes a difference. It gives you options. You can say 100%. No to rounds.
And that is, in my opinion, that is a CEO's number one job. Don't run out of cash and always create as many options as you can. So you have a backup to your backup to your backup plan.
So we've talked a little bit about non-dilutive capital. You mentioned that a couple of times. What is that for the listeners? Explain that, and how is it different than typical rounds or going out and raising funds?
Well, historically, you got to remember Salesforce IPO'd back in 2006. So SaaS is still relatively new in terms of the world history, right? You got to remember, go back to Mike Milken days, junk bonds, late 1980s, early 1990s. This is a guy doing debt for publicly traded companies that were rated BBB. Right, that the bond markets wouldn't touch. So he was doing this. Now, the thing is, publicly traded companies are well understood back then because it's all their data is public. SaaS companies are not yet fully understood by retail investors. Some institutional investors, hedge funds, really understand B2B SaaS companies. But let's look at even like SVB, which many of you guys probably bank with. When they give debt to a software company, they're not really looking at your ARPU, CAC, churn, net dollar retention, quick ratios, and your metrics. They're looking at who sponsored you. How strong is your equity investor, right? And how much cash did Andreessen just put in your bank account? That's what they're underwriting. So what we're trying to do, Jeff, is give credit to founders that have built unit economic sound companies, net dollar retention above 100%, right? ARPU increasing over time because it proves you can sell larger plans to larger customers, profitable or close to break even. You're using your creativity to market yourself, owned and operated distribution channels versus throwing money at Google Ads, which is a perfectly competitive marketplace and no arbitrage opportunity. These are the things you want to be building. And so what non-dilutive financing is today and what we're focused on at Founderpath is it's a way for founders to get capital without having to give up equity.
And that sounds like a pretty good opportunity. How did you come up with the idea?
I was going to say it depends, right? There are a lot of different. I'll tell you maybe later if you're interested. Ask me what founders should negotiate. If they want to negotiate hard with me and win, I'll tell them how they should negotiate with me based off other founders that have gotten great deals from us. But the way I got into this is because of the story I told you earlier about, about 11 minutes ago, where I said I was burned in terms of optionality when I raised my first VC dollars when I was 21. I couldn't sell the business, even though I wanted to. People don't realize this. They get all excited about the TechCrunch article that goes out when they raised a $2 million pre-seed round and they sell 20% of the company, and they don't realize how much optionality they just lost, Right. And the extra hours you have to spend every month on board meetings and what a liquidation preference is, right? And all this other stuff. And so the way I got into this is my podcast. It's called The Top Entrepreneurs. I interview a SaaS founder every day for 20 minutes. And Jeff, as you know, it's, what's your revenue? What's your equity split? It's pretty tough.
Right.
That's because I want to know the data. I don't want anyone bullshitting on my show, right? Like, don't tell me you're the best in the world without telling me what your revenue is and how much equity you own, But I got into this because founders who came on my show, when I stopped recording back in 2018, 2019, like when I stopped recording their episode, they'd say things like, Nathan, we had a VC pull a term sheet from us. We're looking for another source of capital. Can you help us raise debt? Right. And I kept hearing this come up, debt, non-dilutive. And then I said, let me do my own $10,000 deal here. And so I did a bunch of $10,000 deals to companies. They all went really well. And I said, whoa, I need to build a tool to enable these founders I've given money to tell me if they're growing or not. So now they connect their Stripe to our APIs so we see customer growth. They connect their bank to our API so we can see how cash runway looks. They connect their QuickBooks so we can see their historical P&L. And now they don't have to spend any time reporting out every month. It's all automatic. And that's what Founderpath is
That's
today.
really nice.
Yeah, it's all automated.
Yeah, automation is huge. Well, I think there's a huge opportunity in the market, for something like this. As it raised and funded companies in all sorts of different ways. And this was something that I actually looked at a few years ago and tried to build something similar and did it in a completely wrong way. Now that
What happened? What did you learn?
Works. I think I learned a handful of things. One is I was doing it with other capital. And so it was not doing it with capital that I had really control over. And so I was using third party. It was a lot more like a leasing. A lease. Yeah. So if you think about where
did you get the money from? Did you raise on a prom note, or did you have to go raise from new investors every time a new founder asked for money?
No, it was new every time.
Oh, wow.
And so we had some capital sources that were out there, but again, it was more like you think about traditional equipment leasing, for example. And so it also involved the client had to sign up for it as well in order for them to get the cash advance. So it was not near as clean is what you put together. And so it's one of the things I really appreciate about your process is very easy for founders. It doesn't take a lot of reporting. It doesn't involve the client. So the client, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And so they're not having to sign and say, okay, we're going to make payments over here. And it's just, it's a much cleaner process.
We try and make it that way. And I should say, we have 8,500 SaaS founders signed up today. Only 200 have taken capital. Everyone else uses our free reporting tools, our valuation tool. We have a whole thing. There's more valuation data points inside of Founderpath.com, more than PitchBook even. There's thousands of valuations from SaaS companies that have sold or raised or sold minority or majority stakes to growth equity firms. And so just getting in there, it's all free. You sign up at Founderpath.com, go look at all the data. That's value add right there, even if you don't need money.
That's a great value add for sure. Yeah, 8,500 and only 200 have taken capital. What are the others waiting on?
Well, not everyone needs capital, right? Or I guess what I would say is a lot of founders, when they come to me, what they say is, well, Nathan, good for me. Like, we don't need money. They sort of like almost brag about the fact they don't need money, which is what they're trained. Everyone's trained to do that, right? You're trained to never sort of show weakness, and no one would ever say, I want money, right? So they do the opposite. But what I hear when a founder says, oh, we're profitable, we don't need money. What I hear is you don't have any ideas on where you could invest to grow the business. That's what I hear, right? Because if you had ideas, you'd want money to execute those ideas and test them. And other people's money is better than your own money. So risk my money, not your own. That's my thinking.
That's really interesting. It's a good perspective. So if somebody is looking for capital, what is it that they need to ask? What do they need to do in order to get great rates?
Well, there's two terms that founders choose to negotiate when they sign up for Founderpath. Now, the way we do it is based off your net dollar retention, ARPU churn, customer concentration risk, and other factors, which we show you immediately under 30 seconds after you sign up based off your API connections. You'll get a Founderpath score. And if your score is above 900, we can give you a really great option where you can have 36 months to pay back. That's very different than most of I'm not going to name them, okay? But that's very different than most others in our space that make you pay back in 6 months. Or 12 months or 24 months. Sometimes you get 24 months, but we give the best founders, 24, 36, 48 month terms at discount rates as low as 7.5%, 8%, 9%. And so what I would tell founders today is you want to optimize for the lowest monthly payments possible. So you save cash flow and you extend runway. Right. The way to get your payments really low is not to negotiate for the lowest interest rate or discount rate. It's to negotiate for the longest payback. Spread out your home mortgage over 30 years instead of having to pay it back in 2.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Do most people look at it that way, or are they really hammering on the interest rate?
Well, then a lot will make the mistake and they'll hammer on the discount rate until they realize the massive difference in a longer payback, right? If I give you $1,000,000 today and I told you I would charge you 1%, but you have to pay it back in a day, it's a really low interest rate, but you only have a day to use it. You know what I mean?
It's like a payday loan.
That's right. It's like, and it's actually, it's probably pretty expensive on an annualized basis,
Sure. Yeah, 1% for a day. Yeah, crazy interest rate.
Yeah, exactly. So we always try
that
and
makes a
teach
lot of
founders to
sense.
think long term.
And term is really what matters because you're trying to extend your cash flow, extend that runway, extend the time you can use that capital to grow. Because you have to pay it back in 6 months. You've got to have that return super fast to grow or figure out a way to solve that problem again in 6 months.
Yeah, you have to match your payback term with what you're going to use that money to invest in. So what I mean by that is a lot of you guys might want to hire engineers. When engineers take forever to pay back, they have to get onboarded, they have to set up their staging environment, they get on GitHub, they have to start contributing code. And then only once you release the code to the public, maybe people pay for it. So, their payback, that might take 2 years for an engineer to start making money for the company. You need to get a payback term on the money you use, the non-dilutive financing you raise to hire the $100,000 engineer. You want a 2-year term on that. So you want to try and match those as best you can.
So the dollars that are available, is that a percentage of cash flow, percentage of revenue? How does that work?
Yeah. So for anyone that comes in and gets a Founderpath score above 900, we'll make available to you up to 40% of your ARR. So if you're $1 million in revenue, you could take 400K. If you have a perfect score of 1,000, we can go up to 60% of your ARR, right? So if you're doing 10 million in revenue, we could give you 6 million. That's the way to think about it.
And thinking about different ways to deploy capital, I love what you said about having ideas. So there's so many things you could do. You could acquire. It's not just about hiring engineers or just building something, but there's so many things strategically that you could do to grow the business and to have access to that capital. Doesn't mean you have to take 6 million today, but it means that is available. And so you can take what you need now and you take it over time, which is very different than raising a round. And now you have, funds that are sitting there and, it may be a year before you deploy some of that.
That's right. Yep. You can take it as you need it. It's always available. We're operating at a $150 million fund, and there'll be much more news on that front here shortly. Very, very exciting news. But we think we'll put $1 billion out over the next 12 to 24 months. There's a massive demand for this. And what a lot of bootstrap founders don't realize is we are the silent majority, right? For every one founder that raises on TechCrunch, there's 1,000 of us that are quietly building in the middle of the country or across coffee shops that go on runs in the evening and put our kids to bed at night and wake up, and we don't even think about New York City and Silicon Valley. We're just doing our thing. And so this is a multi-billion-dollar sort of asset class we're creating here. It's an alternative way to build a SaaS company.
I love that. And, getting people together, it's one of the things you've done really, really well in some of the events. We got SaaS Open that's coming up here real shortly. So tell me about that. What is SaaS Open all about?
Yeah, look, I would get really bored if I was like, just a non-dilutive guy looking at spreadsheets all day. I thrive off other people's energy. I was a Danny in Grease in my high school musical. So sometimes I like getting on stage and putting on a little show. Maybe don't have this big hair anymore, but SaaS, we try and get thousands of founders together every year. And so SaaS Open will be the largest gathering of B2B SaaS founders in North America in the spring. It'll be March 16th in New York City at the old Condé Nast building. It's a beautiful building. And Jeff, one of the things that we do is when folks sign up, they have to share their revenue, and every speaker has to share their revenue graph on stage, right? So we require that. We eliminate, you would be shocked at some of the big names we eliminate from stage because they refuse to share their revenue. We just say, fine, we're not interested. We move on. We've got a big wait list. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but you have to bring your community together.
That's really, really good. And so where is that going to be one more time? Going to be New York?
New York City, Thursday, March 16th and Friday, March 17th. Stay the weekend if you want to have some fun, but it'll be 1,000 B2B SaaS founders with combined revenue. I just did this math earlier this morning. I added up all the revenue. It's going to be about $2.5 billion of combined ARR in one room.
That's fantastic. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes. So if you're not signed up, definitely do that. Be one of those 1,000 SaaS founders that is there, because that is definitely the place to be.
Appreciate that, Jeff.
So what is something that you wish you'd known, back in the early days when you were, running your SaaS companies?
The power of quitting, actually. A lot of us that hate losing will keep playing a board game we know we can't win just because we don't want to lose. When really your biggest opportunity cost is time playing the board game you know you can't win. So you've got to shut your company down if you think if it's controlling you, if you're stuck in it, and give yourself the space to create something new. It's sort of like if this was my body and it's full of cranberry juice right now, right? Like there's no room to put anything else in. You've got to dump something out before you can make room to fill it up with something else. So you've got to dump.
At what point do you know that that's the case? When do you continue on and really press in hard, or when do you decide that it's time to cut bait and be done?
Well, for me, it's can this thing make me really, really rich? And then I keep going. If it's not, then I quit. I have to be very excited. I'm a money guy. Okay, I love it. It's the ultimate board game. It's a lot of fun. It's the ultimate measuring stick. If you create something valuable, people pay you for it. And so that's how I measure myself. But for others, it might be something different. It might be an energy level. It might be how you feel every day. And I would just encourage everyone to listen to that. Listen to that motivation. And if you stop feeling that, you've got to move on. You've got to cut bait. You've got to quit.
That's really, really good advice. What role have mentors played in your success?
Mentors can be tricky. There's a lot of people I meet that'll say, "Oh man, I've been paying this business mentor for 3 years, $5,000 a month," and I'm going, "You sort of just conference hop. I see it every conference, and you're still at like $100,000 of ARR. You haven't done anything for 5 years. What are you doing?" So I think mentors are great, but you have to know and you have to define at the start when you're going to fire the mentor. Know what the mentor is going to teach you, and then know when you're going to stop because you've learned everything. And if you don't want to have a mentor just for the sake of having a mentor. You got to know what you want to learn it, move on.
That's really, really good advice. I think that's another one. That it's easy to stay too long when there's, the value is just not there. And so really having a purpose and accomplishing that, making progress toward that goal.
Yeah.
So what does success look like for you?
Money. Multi-billions and billions and billions of dollars. If we create an alternative path for SaaS founders to build their businesses and we put out billions of dollars, we will also do very, very well. This is something where I believe we can go compete with SVB directly. Do we build a new SVB? I don't know, but we have no small plans. We want to finally give a voice to the silent majority of bootstrap SaaS founders that get no press love. They get very little attention. We want to make them celebrities with money and press and power. And that's why we put Bridget from You Can Book Me on our stage. That's why we put great bootstrappers on our stages. We'll keep doing that and we'll all grow together. That's my plan.
That's fantastic. Yeah, Bridget is great. We had her on the show a few episodes back.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yes. And that's another one that, she has built a fantastic company and done it a really smart way. And some of the other big competitors out there, and you may know some other names that may be more familiar just because they have a little bit more press. But she's built a company that is far more, I would say, successful than some of them because she makes money.
Approaching $4 million in revenue. She's got a profit sharing plan the whole team can participate in, so they're profitable. She's not growing 200% year over year, but she doesn't have to. She's building a great life for herself and she's growing like 50 or 70% year over year. It's beautiful for her. It's fantastic.
I think that's one of the things that is maybe a little bit enticing about raising is having that press and but you can easily become your business driving you instead of you driving the business. It's something you can be what I call successfully stuck, and just kind of like when you and Heyo, you have a great opportunity there, but you can't take it, or you want to do something different, but you can't because you have those constraints. And it's a tough place to be. So what do you think the future of SaaS looks like? It is relatively young, like you said. Where do you see it going in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Usage-based billing. I mean, this is why Snowflake is so successful, right? They bill based off, amount of data used. It's not a flat fee per month. A lot of these SaaS companies, which I call our SaaS Plus, they have SaaS Plus. They charge a percentage GMV, or SaaS Plus professional services, SaaS Plus hardware. There's an upfront hardware install. When you install the hardware, you're never going to cancel the software. So the net dollar retention on SaaS Plus IoT companies is through the freaking roof. So it's going to be this trend of SaaS Plus with a heavy, heavy emphasis on, transaction or usage-based billing.
I think that's really smart. what should founders be thinking about? How do they get that plus? Is it professional services? Is it, what is it that's going to make them sticky?
Send a mail merge email to all your current customers and ask them 3 other tools they pay for. Read the responses. If you read the same other tool many times, you should go build that tool or vertically integrate it, horizontally integrate it into your product offering.
That is absolute gold.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I love that. It's a really, really good idea because you already have the customer. So it's really, really easy to, yeah. That's a great way to do that. Well, what should people be thinking about, the economy, you're saying recession, what from a financial standpoint, building runway, but how should they manage differently now versus maybe the last year or two, if you think the recession is going to be really deep?
Yeah, runway is important, and a recession also means opportunity. So if you build a bit of a cash war chest today, you'll be able to take advantage when everyone else is running, right? You'll be able to jump in when everyone else is jumping out, per se. So that's what I would be focused on. Keep your expenses as low as possible. If you're flat or your revenue's not growing, well, one way to grow your profits if you're flat top line is to cut expenses, right? And get leaner and meaner and more creative, right? You want to win with creativity, not throwing humans at the problem, not throwing dollars at Facebook ads, not with money, right? You want to win with creativity. And so that's the theme that I would tell everyone to take into Q2 and Q3 this year.
Oh, that's really good advice. So what is something that you think about SaaS or about business that other people would think maybe is a little bit out there or a crazy idea?
I think LTV to CAC is way overrated. I get a lot of folks coming on my show very proudly saying we have an LTV to CAC of 5. The problem is it takes them a year and a half to get the money back. I care much more about payback, period. So if you've invented a way to get your money back instantly, that's way more interesting to me, even if your LTV to CAC is crappy, like a 1. Right? As long as you get your money back quick, that's more important because it's what's called money velocity. And whoever has the higher velocity of money will win. That's more important, in my opinion, in today's market than a high LTV to CAC ratio.
So is that something that would be more like a self-liquidating funnel where they get somebody in, they sell them something, lower end or something that helps liquidate that initial acquisition cost and then try and go back with something bigger? Or how do you see that working?
Well, it's in the backgrounds of both of our video right now, right? I don't know what you charge for small fish, big pond, but my book retails for $29 and you sell that, then you upsell Heyo or upsell Founderpath, right? Why do you think we launched a magazine, right? Why does the magazine cost $29? Because that was about our acquisition cost. So we recover it by selling the magazine. I've seen people like Russell Brunson at ClickFunnels put his podcast recordings on a USB drive and sell the USB drive at the top of the funnel from ads on Facebook.
Yeah.
So yes, you nail, or what are we doing right now at SaaS Open? We're selling event tickets at the top of the funnel, right? So you want to put something at the top of the funnel that's not software that allows you to instantly recover your CAC so that the software sale is all icing on the cake.
I think a lot of founders don't think about it that way of, how can I recapture that quickly? Because they're really focused on, getting in there and getting that SaaS sale.
I hope they continue to not think about it because that means the rest of us that are doing it, it can be our secret.
Right. Yeah, we just won't tell anybody about that.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll keep it a secret. So if you're listening, definitely.
Well, I think as a secret's out, you've got a pretty big show here. So I think that we killed ourselves on that one, but it's hard to execute, right? I mean, you can tell everyone in the world, but you got to execute it. It's not easy.
Sure. Well, what is something that you're not great at? Something you're really good at a lot of things.
People. I mean, my show is so unemotional. It's funny. I mean, I could almost be a robot, like an AI robot, and just ask, what is your ARPU? What is your CAC? What is your I mean, it's robotic. I mean, I'm extroverted when I need to be, but if I could just be by myself thinking about data and reading, most days I'd be very happy, playing Ticket to Ride on my phone when I want to wind down, right? That's what I would do. Studying Mike Milken when I'm bored. This is what I would do. So I would say I'm very bad at people. I know I'm bad at people, and that's why I surround myself with people that are very good at people,
That's not something I would have guessed. We spend a little bit of time together. I think you're a great people person.
Well, it's because I'm turning it on right now, but I appreciate that. Let's just say this. It's not one of my strengths. It's not something I actively sort of lean into.
You think that happens a lot with entrepreneurs that, they function in roles maybe that they're not, completely comfortable in just because they're required to? maybe an introvert that has to do extroverted things?
I think that's probably a fair statement. I mean, for me, what I'm actually saying when I say I'm bad at people is I'm sort of sending a signal to the world that I do not care what you think about me, right? That's what I'm saying when I say I don't care about people. And repeating it to myself and publicly like this on a podcast over and over is just a massive unlock, because most people right now, if you knew your mom was angry at you, really angry, you wouldn't be able to function all day because you'd be worried about why your mom doesn't like you that day. Well, it's sort of the same in business, right? If you're always worried about why someone may or may not like you, you get nothing done. You know, what's interesting is you don't have to look past Newton and physics to understand the importance of having people not like you. It's equal and opposite forces, right? If you do something and there's nothing that pushes back on that thing you do, there's no equal and opposite force, there's no resistance, then it's probably not that big a deal. If you do something and then there's an equal and opposite reaction, i.e. natural law, physics, you're probably onto something. So if you're not getting any pushback or conflict or people hating you, you're probably not doing anything interesting.
Most people would not think about it that way. I think that's a brilliant way to look at it. If you're not taking a stand, if nobody is pushing back, then you're kind of in the mushy middle.
Yeah, equal and opposite forces, right? Equal and opposing for whatever it is, opposite and equal forces, something like that. But the question all of you should ask yourself is, what do you stand against? And talk more about that, right? I am against VC, right? I am against raising equity at all costs. I am against growth at all costs. I am against boards, right? What are you against? And that will help everyone understand what you are for.
Oh, that's good. So is there a place for a board, or where do you see that role in a company?
Yeah, look, I've been in a lot of board meetings that are boring as hell. Nothing gets done. The board members come in, they don't even read the prepared materials. The CEO put 20 hours in and sent 3 days before the meeting. They don't even read them. They ask stupid questions like, what does ARPU mean? I mean, just terrible. It's an ego puff. It's horrendous.
Right.
The best boards, everyone's engaged. The founder is leading by saying, board member Y, I know you know person Z, who's a really good CFO. We're trying to hire a CFO. Here's a script email. Can you please send it to them right after the board meeting, right? Great founders give work to their boards and then talk strategy, like deep strategy with the boards. And I just think it's rarer and rarer today, which is why I'm not a huge proponent of them, but they can be good if used the right way.
How do you build a board that is like that as a founder?
Yeah, a board is, in my opinion, a board is for folks that you think can help the company, but you can't afford to hire full time. They're already rich. They have too much experience. You can't get enough of their attention. That's the perfect place for them.
So how do you get them involved? How do you get them engaged in your company?
Well, people's engagement usually follow where they're putting their attention. So the question is, how do you get their attention? Once you have their attention, they'll engage more. So you have to understand what they care about to get their attention. Right? You either go deep on what they care about, or you do a pattern interrupt and you put something in front of them that's the opposite of what they care about, right? Or is against what they care about. And then you get their attention. So money and energy and everything else generally follows attention. Focus on getting that from people that you want in terms of helping your business.
Yeah, certainly being able to stand out, not only to attract board members. And how do you stand out today in the world to attract clients? What are strategies that you've seen that have worked, or founders that you work with?
I can't think of a good answer for that one right now, Jeff.
Okay, fair enough. So what does the future look like for you and for Founderpath? You said, growing big. I mean, potential it is, and we got some announcements coming. You kind of alluded to maybe, taking over the banking world.
Well, let's just say this. You can't deploy billions of dollars if you don't have billions of dollars available. We'll leave it at that.
I love that.
What I would say in terms of, where we are going is, I told you, there's 8,000, over 8,500 SaaS founders signed up. The majority of them never use this for capital. They use all of our other tools. So we're going to keep focused on building great tools for founders, and not the typical stuff, right? Not a new reporting dashboard. Baremetrics already does that, right? Not a new billing system. Paddle already does that, right? Not a new customer management tool. There's plenty of HubSpot and Salesforce do great jobs out there. There's room to invent new products for SaaS founders relative to their financial well-being. And that's what we're focused on. And an example of that would be, many of you listening right now with $1 million or $2 million in revenue have your full net worth stuck in your SaaS company. Why isn't there a market where you can sell secondary shares, even if you're only at 1 or 2 million in revenue? That way you can sell 10% of your company, right? Get $1 million and go build the house that you want, or go have the kids finally start a family, or go on that vacation you wanted. You shouldn't have to sell your whole company in order to get your net worth sort of out of it and diversified. So what does a product like that look like? We're thinking a lot about these kinds of things.
No, that would be something. I mean, it's a beautiful offering, because that's a really tough thing. Is somebody wants to liquidate something, but they don't want to cash out. They don't want to be done. They think that there's runway left, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's all at risk. Mm-hmm. Everything they have is in the company.
Yeah, most of you guys love your customers. If someone offered to buy your whole company, you'd sell it, and a year later, you'd be doing the exact same thing again. So that begs the question, why not just don't sell the whole thing? Sell a little bit. The problem is right now, there aren't any firms that would buy 20%, right? And let you take it personally as a founder off the table and put it in your personal bank, right? And then keep growing the business. But we think you could deploy billions and billions of dollars doing that across thousands and thousands of SaaS founders.
I think that's really interesting. And then what is the play after that? They take a little bit off the table, continue to grow, and then look for an exit down the road, or private equity, or
do it
just
again.
A cash cow.
Right.
Yeah,
grow your valuation and sell 10% again, and then take 20 million off the table for 10%, and then take 200 million off the table for another 10% in 5 years from there. That way you're able to build your same business over a much longer period of time and personally build your net worth and diversify. That's the key. I think owning a profitable $10 million SaaS company that profits $2 million a year is the new American dream. It's it's a new worldwide dream, right? It's not the white picket fence in the big house anymore. It's owning a profitable company and running it and having full control. And that world will never exist if there's not liquidity for options for early stage founders. And so, we have an opportunity to potentially provide that.
That's really, really interesting. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Founderpath and SaaS Open?
Yeah, guys, if you want to see how much money you could get from Founderpath, on what terms and how long you have to pay it back, you can sign up in under 30 seconds at founderpath.com. And if you want to meet Rajesh from Netcore, $100 million bootstrapped and profitable, he'll be joining us in New York City, March 16th at SaaS Open, along with the founder of Pendo, $170 million in revenue. And also Liam, the founder of Time Doctor, bootstrapped, $25 million in revenue. Over 1,000 founders will be joining us. We'd love to see you all there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Outstanding. And we'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes.
Thanks
Nathan,
for having me,
really
Jeff.
enjoyed having you on the show. Thanks again to Nathan for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources at Founderpath. There is a lot to love there. You can learn more about Nathan at founderpath.com and come meet him and me and a number of our other recent guests like Ben Murray, Drew D'Agostino. All of us will be at SaaS Open in 2 weeks. Get full details at saasopen.com. And you don't have to remember all this stuff. All the links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. All you have to remember is SaaS Fuel. There you go. Well, please subscribe and follow us while you're there at saasfuel.com. Everyone who subscribes this week gets a Protect Your Monkeys t-shirt. Sound good? Okay, how about $150 million in non-dilutive funding, or some part of that when you go and you sign up and qualify at founderpath.com. That's even better than a Monkeys t-shirt, right? Well, they actually have designated $150 million for our clients and listeners, and I'm telling you, it is easy peasy. Even if you don't need it now, the analytics and metrics that Nathan mentioned are amazing and free. So the link is right there on our site. Go to saasfuel.com. We link right there to it, and there's some special perks with that link as well. So hit that up. Go to saasfuel.com, click over to Founderpath, and sign up and get some of that funding, or at least some metrics and analytics. Well, join us next time on our SaaS Fuel Expert series for Sarah Noel Block. Sarah is an inbound marketing expert and host of the Tiny Marketing Show. Like many small businesses, she was a marketing department of one, which is why it's Tiny Marketing now. But never tiny in impact, I'll tell you that. She shares her best ideas to turn a small marketing department, even a marketing department of one, into a virtual army and a giant magnet bringing inbound leads. It is an amazing episode. And our founder next week is Steve Benson, CEO and founder of Badger Maps. It is the #1 app in the App Store for outside salespeople with mapping, routing, and scheduling. Very cool stuff. Well, I will see you next time. As always, protect your monkeys and enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.